What's going on, guys? Junior's Fishing Company here again with another time video. This time we're going to do a chatterbait, like a fire tiger chartreuse pattern, green, red, orange, yellow. We're going to put some feathers in the back, and then the front is going to be marabou and some tinsel. The last video I posted, I showed putting this body tubing on, and I already have it on, just because that's going to save some time. And I'm not going to put a rattle on this, because this is a chatterbait. And you can put a rattle on your chatterbait all you want, but these are plenty loud. This is a Z-Man ½ ounce, I think. Just original chatterbait. Nowadays they've got a bunch of different kinds and styles, but I usually end up going with the cheaper route. I think this is like $6-7. I'm not sure what pattern it's called. It's got like the little black pattern on the bottom and then just orange. So the first thing I did was, on a chatterbait you're gonna have a little I don't really know what it is. It's like a little lead bump. Probably a skirt collar or maybe a bait keeper or something like that. That makes it really hard to wrap stuff. So I just grabbed a file, just an old steel file or whatever it is, and I filed that down. Lead is super soft, so this doesn't take 10 minutes to do it. It's a little loud, but I filed this down every time. Now, if this was a tungsten jig and it was full tungsten and there was a bait keeper or something right here, you wouldn't be able to file it down, just because tungsten is going to be about as hard of a material to file down. I don't know anything that's going to be able to file it down. So this is lead. We filed it down. What I'm going to do first is I want this bait to be between 6 and 7 inches, and 7 inches is about right here. So the feathers that I do put down in the back, I want to line them up here. I'll taper them a little bit, but it definitely fishes small, so I want it to be longer. I'd rather have it be a little too long than do all this work and see it in the water for the first time and see that it looks a little small, especially because I want the body to be really bulky, so I want some length. And actually these feathers with the chatterbait make it swim really, really, really well. So we're gonna start. I've got just 210 Danville. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get my Blane chocolate body tubing up. It's going to end up in the end kind of being a little cone like that, but I want to wrap right behind it. So I'm going to do 5 rooster feathers. I'm going to do one, this is like a reddish orange, I think it's like a fire orange, and then 1 red, 2 green, 2 yellow. So my red feather is going to be my longest one, and so I'm going to put that down first, and I just want it to sit nice and straight right off the back. I apologize in advance when I'm wrapping. If I hit that chatterbait blade, it will happen more than once. I think I'm going to do the yellow next. Actually, so this is Rooster, and this is, I don't know the difference, but Schlappen. I was a little low on some colors of Rooster, so I went with Schlappen, which works just fine. So I want these to ride nice and straight. The Schlappen was a little bit flimsy, which won't be too bad, but it's just not going to sit up really nicely it'll kind of sag in the video. But so I'm going to put my second yellow on the other side. Get it tight. The first tight wrap kind of sets it in. And again, these slopping don't really want to cooperate, but that's alright. So now I've got my green. These green are a little bit wider. These yellows were pretty thin. I'm not too picky about my feathers, especially on a bait like this that you're going to be fishing so fast. You don't have to worry as much about. I would rather have it be too flimsy than too stiff, so I'm going to actually trim this a little. So this has a really thick stem, and I got this tip from, I think, Gunnar Bramer. These are Dr. Slick hair scissors. If you take it and you mash down with the flat part in here, you can kind of flatten it out, and it definitely helps when you're putting it on. So that green is a little bit shorter, so the red is like a 1/4 inch longer than the yellow, and then the yellow is like 1/2 inch longer than the green. Just to put a little kind of contrast in it. And you'll see in a sec when I wrap this Marabou, I'm going to combine 2 different colors on each wrap. I'm going to trim this a little bit. And this one's really flimsy, so it'll kind of hang down. I'm leaving all of that soft fuzz on there. It'll just help add a little bulk to the bait. So now I've got my feathers on there, and I've got plenty of room behind here to do wrap a Marabou back there. I'm going to put down just a little glue just to hold all that in place. The more durable you make your bait, the longer it'll last. I just don't want to wrap too far up so I can get this cone back. The cone's actually a little bit farther up than what I wanted it to be, but I put glue down first, so with these Marabou, I've got red, green, orange, and yellow, and I've got like 4 of each. I'm not going to end up using, you know, all these feathers, but I'm going to mix them. So I'll do like a red and a green, orange and yellow, red and orange, green and yellow, orange and red, or whatever I've been saying. So you can do it the way I'm going to do it. Another way you can do it is you could do all red, and then all yellow, and then all orange, and then all green, and that'll kind of taper the colors a little bit. I prefer to kind of mix them. Marabou, if you've ever used Marabou quite a bit, the colors end up kind of bleeding into the other feathers. So if you have like a black and a white Marabou jig, eventually those black and whites are going to kind of meld together, and so eventually these will all blend a little bit together. And so I don't want to just stack them, because if I stack them like that, that green is just it's gonna look more chartreuse green than anything else. So I'm gonna mix all those colors together And then at the end, when I put I'm going to put a rabbit strip collar up here. It's going to be a little orange, yellow, and a little green. Again, I kind of want to just mix them, to blend them, I guess you could say. So that glue looks dry now. So I think to start, I don't want really long Marabou. You can see just maybe with these two, maybe you can't, I don't know. This one has a lot longer fibers, I don't know what you call those, fibers, than this one. So if I put this back here, it's going to go over halfway down my feathers. I don't want that. So I'm going to pick a feather that has shorter barbs, or I don't know what you'd call it. This is going to go about to right here. So I don't want it to leak down my feathers too much. So I'm going to pick a feather that's short. Maybe this one might be alright. It's pretty long. So I've got my two feathers I'm going to start with. I'm going to start with yellow and chartreuse, green. So I've got my stem down here, and I peeled back just the tip. I'm going to line it up with my chartreuse. They're a little off, but that's alright. I'm going to wrap these in together. So now I'm going to wrap these in. Make sure they're cinched down pretty well, because they can get a little slippery sometimes. Now I prefer to use hackle pliers. You don't have to. I just know hackle pliers are better at pinching down on them. So I have a glass of water right here. I'm just gonna use some water to kind of, I don't want to drench it. I'm going to get these feathers back. My bobbin out of the way. And when you're wrapping around here, you can kind of see some feathers that want to stay on the other side. You don't want that. You'll end up wrapping over a couple of the fibers, but we're going to comb this out anyway. So when I get to the end, where my stem of my feather is, where I peeled off some of those fibers, just gonna give it a couple tight wraps. Maybe 3. And we'll come in, watch your thread. And that should all, you know, you should just be left with just some stem. And then you want to come back in and make sure that you got it all down. And then just a fine-tooth comb or even a brush. But be a little careful, because these individual fibers, or what, not fibers, feathers, stems, I don't know. they can be pretty delicate. So now that I know that that's cinched down well, and I don't really need to put super glue on this. I mean, you can if you want. I try not to get too much of that glue on the feathers. Couple half hitches, and I might dab it a little bit with some head cement. Just to make sure, really just so I know that the half hitch is going to stay, not really for durability. A couple wraps up here. So that was yellow and green. This next one's going to be orange and red. Just line the tips up as good as you can. There. And I'll go back to that tubing. I don't want to cut any of my feather off. Make sure that it's cinched down. I'm going to get my thread out of the way. So this is kind of the repetitive part. I fast forwarded it through my first video. We'll see how long this one's going to be, kind of figuring out lengths and stuff, but I wanted to on this one show a couple of how I do it. I know everybody's different, but crane them back. Get all the stuff back where you want it. You just want to be careful you're not wrapping too on top of too many of the stuff you just wrapped. And I'm just going to jam it down because I have this little lead bump right here that I don't want. I haven't put any thread down or anything. So I'm going to keep all of that on really just the hook. One more. Make sure it's down. So that's number 2. Now I'm going to put some thread up here, but I want to put a little tinsel down. Make sure that this is down. I'm going to create just a little. I'm going to wrap back just a little. Just some room for some tinsel. I think I'm going to do the tinsel right now. So I'll kind of get these all out of the way. I'm going to put some tinsel down, and then I'm going to get my thread up on this big part right here. I'm going to put some, in the other video I put down strung fuzzy fiber. This is actually, this is Flash and Silky. It's blended, so it's kind of like strung fuzzy fiber. It's not quite as tough. The fibers aren't really as stiff as strung fuzz, but there is a little bit of Flash blended into there. And it's not as stiff, but when it's short like this is gonna be, put right up here, it'll do what I want it to do. So the Flash I'm gonna use is gonna be holographic Flashaboo. This is Sunrise, so it's just gold and red. You could do all gold, you could do whatever color you want. I try not to put too much Flash in my baits, but so just cut it from the hank. I don't know, this is probably 8-10 inches. I'm obviously not going to use all of it, but I'm going to try and save as much as I can. So they're both the same on each side, so I want to kind of wiggle it, pinch and pull out, and I want to get a nice taper on there. And I want the longest tinsel. I don't want it to go quite to the tips of my feathers. I want it to go, it'll probably go down to about here. I'm just gonna wrap all of this in. I'm gonna get down with one good wrap right on top. Now remember, this bait is actually gonna, I'm tying this upside down, so this is the bottom of the bait. You want to make sure you try to remember that when you're tying. So I'm just gonna kind of spread this on either side. Use your nail or whatever you have to do. Back, keep it out of my way. So the next Marabou I'm going to do is going to be green and orange. I want this, if one color is going to show more than anything, I think I'd rather have it be Chartreuse. So I'm going to try and use Chartreuse more than any of the other colors. So I'm going to tie that down right to my tinsel. Come back up here. Make sure my hackle pliers has those. And you want to be careful, even though I'm doubling these feathers, where when you first start wrapping, they're still, I mean, that's really thin stem, so you don't want to pull too much on, too much pressure. You want to put some, so you want it to be wrapped on there, but just got to be careful, because if it snaps right here, you're starting over. Those are thick stems. I want to make sure. It's hard to use just the Marabou that's super thin stems, especially if you're using blood quill. Blood quills are almost all going to be mostly thick at the base. Blood quills are usually longer, but I prefer just regular. So that's down. Now, I'll end up probably fast forwarding one of these, but the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put down my Flash and Silky. So this is just another step to make the bait a little beefier, because this Marabou does really shrink when it gets wet. And the only spot I'm not going to put this is right on the hook. That's tough because this is how it's going to swim. But really you're not going to be able to tell. And I don't want, I don't know, that's maybe just my personal preference, but I don't want this too long. My tubing is like right here, so I don't want to go too far back. Just gonna put down 2 good wraps, and I'm gonna kind of just spread it almost like you're spreading deer hair. Just use your thumb, get that down, and keep working. So that's mostly on top. I'll put one over here. I'm not worried about tapering this, just because you're not going to be able to see it, and this is getting pretty bulky. See, you end up, the farther up I get, the more Marabou you have to use because you get less wraps, but this isn't a fly, so not worried about it. Because this will add a lot of bulk. And this lead is already kind of bulky. Alright, so Flash and Silky is down. What I'm going to do, I'm going to do a McDonald's, red and yellow. And then I'm going to do, the last one is going to be Chartreuse and orange. I'm going to fast forward through those, and then when I get right to the front, I'll slow it down, and then I'm going to put down a rabbit collar to top it off. Alright, so I ended up adding a little more Chartreuse to the top because it was looking really orangey and my head's already orange, so I'm almost out of room here, but this mess up here needs to be covered. So I'm going to do a little bit of a dubbing loop with this Hareline Rabbit Strips, orange, black over yellow, and a little Chartreuse. But again, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to get on here because I am out of space. So this might not go well. I had a lot more on here. You can see at the top I picked it off because this is not going to fit. I can end up start it as far by that Marabou as I can. And I'm just going to put down, I can't go too far down because otherwise this collar's just going to be ugly. That's just the way it's going to be. when you get to the front, just gonna do, I'm actually gonna put down a little bit of glue. To hold that in so I don't have to waste a bunch of room whip finishing. Alright, so it's all wet right now. Let that dry. Alright, there you have it. Fire tiger, rooster, marabou, rabbit, chatterbait. You can give us a follow on Instagram at Juniors Fishing Company. You can visit us at juniorsfishing.com. Anything you want to see, any comments, leave them below. If you made it this long, I appreciate it. It'll swim upside down, or not upside down, it'll swim this way, so a little bit of flash in there. These feathers will really move, especially because this chatterbait, it bounces so much, it really makes these feathers kind of pop. So yeah, give us a follow, leave a comment. I think this is 2 marabous now, so I think the next one I might do is maybe some deer hair, or maybe a doubling loop, something like that. See you soon.